Hello, hi, my name is Hannah and welcome to what was supposed to be a very well thought out and planned video about the best books I've read this year, my top 10 books from this year. But I'm going to level with you. It's the middle of a very busy work week and I'm dragging my feet. I'm dragging my feet because I desperately don't want to do this. As in, no, I want to know, I'm curious, but the thought of sitting down and trying to figure it out is giving me preemptive anxiety. I already feel bad for the books that I've read that I like that are not going to make it into my top 10. I'm already stressed about the fact that I don't really rate books, so what the hell am I going to be basing this off? So here's what we're going to do. Something different for me that I've never done before and may not work. So, I have made a tier rank with only 3 tiers on it, which I'm going to put up on the screen. In fact, now? Okay, so here is the tier rank that I've done. I'm going to have to keep looking down because it's not helpfully in front of me, it's down there for me. So, what I've done is I've very quickly gone through the books I've read this year and tried not to overthink it and just pulled any that I think are in that like upper echelon of the books that I've read. And there are, I think, 18 books that I have read this year in that sort of vibe. And we're going to rank them and we're going to go one by one as they appear on the screen here, which is not in the order that I read them in. I thought it was in the order that I read them in, but it sort of is, sort of isn't. It doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. So what I'm going to do is almost pitch these books against each other. Everything will start in the top 10, and then as we go through, I will have to start bumping things into the tier below, which is fuck, but I did love it though. And then there's a couple of books that I've put in here that I actually know, hand on heart, are not going to be in my top 10 or edging into the top 10, but that I wanted to mention. So I'm going to briefly talk about the books as we get to them, but most of these I have discussed in more detail in one or more other videos. So I will put in the description box down below any videos on my channel where I talk about these books in any more detail in case you're interested, because I'm probably not going to go into tons of detail right now. And shall we just begin? Okay, so the first book is Poor Things by Alasdair Gray, and I really did love Poor Things. It's obviously going to go first for now. So this, I made a whole video with my friend Farmer comparing the book to the recent film adaptation. And I really liked this. It was my first Alasdair Gray book. It had lots of things that I really like. It had a lot of playfulness in the writing. It had a lot of intertextuality to it. It had humour and wit. It's essentially about a young woman called Bella Baxter who is the revived body of a woman who died, who has been brought back to life with the brain of her unborn child implanted into her brain. It's kind of steampunky Victorian vibes. It's riffing on Frankenstein. It is excellent. It is excellent. It's currently number 1. The next book is The Book of Strange New Things by Michel Faber. So this is my first Michel Faber book and I absolutely loved this. Did I love it more than Poor Things? Oh God, it's already begun. This is so funny because both of these are books that I read for well, I didn't read them for the Euros challenge, but featured in the Euros challenge that I did, which linked down below. I don't have time to explain it to you. But when I have a feeling these books might have gone head to head in that, but I should clarify, when I'm doing my favourite books, these are not necessarily the books that I think are technically the best. I'm vibing on these books. So like, if I have a feeling that Poor Things might have knocked the Book of Strange New Things out in the Euros, but did it just on pure vibes. So the Book of Strange New Things is about a man who's a born again Christian who accepts a mission to go to a colonized planet and bring religion to the indigenous peoples, species that live on this planet. And it's really weird. I think, I actually think it's gonna go before Poor Things, you know. I think it is. I think what I really liked about, I think the character story just edged it. But I'm basing this on absolutely nothing. So there you go. The next book, now, if you did watch my Euro stuff, you will know that the next book, I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman, was the winner of my Euros challenge. This is a Belgian book. It's a sort of rediscovered modern classic, only kind of published in English, I think, in the last few years. And this is a dark and broody book. So this is following a group of women who are being kept in a cage underground. They have been there for a really long time. They're being guarded by these men. They don't know why they are there. And they can't... Well, most of them can remember how they got there, but we're particularly following one woman who was only a really young girl when they were brought to this place that they're in. So she has kind of grown up in this. And I think all three of these books so far have a huge amount of sensitivity in the way they explore human psychology, which I think is really interesting. I do think I Who Have Never Known Men did it the best. I didn't enjoy the reading experience of it probably as much as the other two, but overall I think it had more of an emotional impact. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Oh, I shouldn't have done this. Do you know what? I'm gonna... Oh, is that mad? Is it mad to... I think I'm going to put it there for now. God. I already don't like this. We'll persevere. We will persevere. Okay. The next book is Pity by Andrew McMillan, and so this is, Andrew McMillan is a poet. This is his debut novel. It's sort of like a love letter to Barnsley. It's got lots of layers to it, kind of looking at the intergenerational history of a place. I really liked a lot of the themes. in it. And some of the writing was absolutely stunning, and I definitely wanted to mention it in this video. But if I am being honest, hand on heart, I think it's probably an honourable mention, because I really am reserving the fuck but I did love it though for books that I think could be in my top 10 but get edged out. I don't necessarily think Pity is that high. It hasn't actually stayed with me in the way that I thought it might. But I do think it's excellent. But it's going to be my first honorary mention. Okay. Next up, we have The Employees by Olga Raun. This is a Danish book that, again, I read as part of the Euros challenge, but was a book I wanted to read anyway. It's a very unusual, speculative fiction book following... So the book is told as a series of witness testimonies, and they are... being made as part of a kind of internal corporate investigation aboard this spaceship. And we don't know exactly what has happened, but we can infer that something has gone on that has meant that all of these statements are being made by all of the employees aboard this spacecraft. And the thing that's interesting about these employees is that some of them are human and some of them are humanoid. And it's really, really cleverly looks at the way that our sense of self in a capitalist kind of culture is attached to our work and our productivity and what we might be losing as humans by sort of allowing that to happen. Really loud car. My bud, could you not? I'm always fascinated by people that think it's very impressive to have a really noisy car. Like, what's that? Anyway, I did really love it. I thought it was really clever and really impactful. I do think it's probably down here with Pity though, as a book that I really rate and respect, but maybe not my top 10, but really, really liked it. The next one, ooh. This is going to be interesting. So this is Maps of Our Spectacular Bodies by Maddie Mortimore. Now, this is a stunningly beautiful experimental book about a woman who is experiencing cancer. This was one of the first books I read this year, so forgive me if I'm getting like a little this is yeah, this is about a woman who is dealing with a returned cancer. So she's had cancer previously, and it has come back, and it is told in part. It follows her and her internal sort of world, but also cancer is a character in this book, and it's told in these really experimental, very poetic vignettes. I didn't think all of it was successful all the time, but fuck, the bits that were really, really fucking good. So what does that mean? Does that feel right? Does that feel right? I mean, I don't know if it feels right, but I've done it. Okay. Right. Already sensing some like themes in like what I really enjoy in books. I'm just trying not to scan ahead to look at what I've got coming up, but okay, here we go. The Birthday Party by Laurent Mauvingnier. This is a book that I've talked about a lot. It did very well in my Euros challenge. I read it while I was in Paris earlier this year. Sorry if I shook the desk just then. This is a really unusual book in the sense that it, at parts, I didn't enjoy this book at all. But at parts it was so, like, I think it was so impressive and so just the craftsmanship of of the language and the prose. So this is a book that is about a birthday party. We're following a small group of people who live in this very, very small hamlet in rural France, and they are preparing for one of the mother-wife character. It's her birthday, so they're preparing for her birthday party, and the book is told over, I think, just over 24 hours. And it's told in like excruciating detail, like the temporal sort of specificity of every moment is really there. And there was like so much in the prose that was so impressive around like really capturing the way our minds work in time, that I thought was just so impressive. But can I call it one of my favourite books? I don't think I can. I don't think I can, but fuck, it was good. Oh, fuck, it was good. Okay, next one. Right. I read Mr. Loverman by Bernadine Evaristo. Now, this is going to be interesting to compare, because this is like, in some ways, and I don't at all mean this in a disparaging way, this is a much more straightforward book. It's a much more straightforward story. It's not doing so much in terms of like literary elements, although it is beautifully written. This is about a man whose name I cannot remember, and he's in his 70s or 80s, British Caribbean man, and he is married to a woman and they have children together, but he has been in love with his best friend Morris for his entire life, his entire adult life, and they've been having an affair since they were like teenage boys, and this is a book following whether or not at this late stage in his life he's able to sort of grapple enough with his internalized homophobia to finally live authentically. And it was good. The characters in this were so... do you know what? I'm actually going to put it there, because like I say, I don't think like formally it was necessarily doing like as much as a book like Poor Things or The Birthday Party or All Go Round, but for pure just like all of these people felt so real. The protagonist is this very difficult man. He's not like, in some ways you feel so sorry for him, but he's also like incredibly like misogynistic about his wife, and he's difficult. He's a difficult man, and all of the characters are just really well fleshed out. And I actually think it was one of the books that I enjoyed the reading experience of the most. God. Okay. Companion Piece by Ali Smith. So this was the sort of concluding tome in Ali Smith's seasonal quartet. So she did autumn, winter, spring, summer, and then companion piece at the end. And I always adore Ali Smith. This wasn't my favourite book by her. In some ways I think it was one of the most disjointed of the books in the quartet, although I have read them over a year. I've read them over a year. So I might be misremembering. But I always love Ali's writing. I always love Ali's writing. And yeah, I'm gonna stop talking too much about these books, but I loved that. But it's not my favourite Ali Smith book, so it's not gonna go all the way up there. Okay. The next one, The Member of the Wedding by Carson McCullers. Oh, well now. So that's going there. This is a modern classic by an author that I really like, Carson McCullers, and it follows, again, very condensed amount of time. Love me a condensed time book. It follows 3 days, a young girl called Frankie who's like a sort of a preteen, and her brother is getting married, and over these 3 days she sort of falls in love with her brother and his prospective wife. That actually, well, no, not over the 3 days, that actually happens prior to the book taking part, but we're sort of witnessing the build up to the wedding and the immediate aftermath of this wedding that this young girl has become sort of obsessed with. And it's really an exploration of, like a lot of Carson McCullers books, about identity and feeling outside of things. And there's not a huge amount plot-wise that happens, but I just loved it. I really loved it. So there. It's so far taken the top spot. Okie dokie, let's have a look. Right. Private Rites by Julia Armfield is another one that I put on here to go into the honourable mentions, because I really like Julia Armfield's writing, and there was so much that I liked and admired in this book, which is a sort of family drama set in and amongst a climate apocalypse. This very slow, dreary sort of apocalypse where it's been raining for 30 years and London is like slowly descending into water, and it is very much the end of the world, but everyone's just sort of like going about their business, and people still have like boring shit jobs that they have to do. And in and amongst that, we're following 3 sisters who have very tense relationships with each other, and it's following the aftermath of the death of their father, who they were all estranged from. So there was lots that I really liked. For me, it didn't work on all levels, but I still thought it was an excellent book, and I wanted it to feature in this video, but it's not top 10. It's not top 10 for me. Christ. Okay, here we go. Right. Okay. Blackouts by Justin Torres. This I read really recently in one of my impatient reading blogs. Was it only last month that I read this? What is time? This is a really experimental book about, for a change, the sort of is 2 men speaking to each other in the dark from different generations about their queerness and their lives and their histories and their cultures, but more than that, it is a book that is about how we write ourselves back into a history that we have been removed from, and there's these brilliant sort of blackout poems that have been written using the real text of a pioneering sexologist called Jan Gay, who did a lot of sort of early research on sex variance, as it was called then. So differences in basically like not being straight. Yeah, I thought this was magical. I think there's some people don't love it so much, and I can see why it doesn't work for people, because it is light on sort of narrative punch. But I just thought it was so good. Did it. Ooh, it's gonna get gnarly soon. Right, it's going there. God. The funny thing about this is very much like in the moment. If I did this tomorrow or in 10 weeks time, the order of this would be completely different. I think the honourable mentions would still be the honourable mentions, and the books vying for top 10 would still be the books vying for top 10, but I can already see a version of me being like, no, Poor Things is way better than Mr. Loverman. All we can do is our best in the moment, and that is what I am doing. Right, next up we've got another modern classic. This is A Single Man by Christopher Isherwood. This is another book that takes place over a very short amount of time. God. This is about a man who is a professor. He's British but working in California, and his long-term partner, male partner, has recently died, and we are following one day in his grief. And oh, I really loved this book. Did I love it more than Blackout? Did I love it more than... Oh, I can already tell at the top of this list is going to be like a fight between the books that are like classics that I loved and experimental cool books. I can already tell that's what's happening at the top. That is what's happening at the top. I think that feels good. Maybe that feels good because I'm like spreading out the classics and the experimental literary fiction. Right, that's there. And here we go. Cat amongst the pigeons, crow amongst my fucking life. This is Grief is a Thing with Feathers by Max Porter. Oh, this book belongs alongside this book. These two books speak to each other beautifully. So Grief is a Thing with Feathers is a novel also about grief. I am a cheery person, aren't I? Is everything here about being dead or repressed? Yeah, so this is about following a man and his two sons in the immediate aftermath, or the pretty immediate aftermath of the mother matriarch of their family. And the father is a Ted Hughes scholar. He's working on a book about Ted Hughes's book Crow, his poetry collection Crow. And as part of the book, this family, this grieving family, are visited by a manifestation of Crow from the Ted Hughes poem, who sort of attempts to shepherd or bully this grieving family sort of through, helps them sort of try and navigate their grief. It was brilliant. It was brilliant. Okie dokes. Oh no. There's only 2 spots left in the top 10 and there are 4 books. Okay, Giovanni's Room. Giovanni's Room is another classic that was real fucking great. This is about a American living in Paris who is sort of potentially on the brink of getting engaged. She's sort of engaged to this woman, and she goes to Spain for a little bit to figure out if she wants to marry him or not. And he, in that time, has an affair with a Italian bartender called Giovanni that ends very badly, and this book is incredibly sad and real depressing, and that is just exactly what I like. That's exactly what I like. I don't... A Single Man or Giovanni's Room. I did really like it, but do you know what? I actually think it's... I think it's there. Okay. Boulder. Oh, Boulder by Eva Baltazar. This book was great. Oh, this was a perfect little novella. This is following a young woman who is working on a like a merchant ship, like a commercial, not a commercial ship. Someone told me the word that I mean, and I've already forgotten the word that I mean, but like a ship that's not for like passenger travel, it's like, it's doing a job. A ship like that, as a chef. And she's traveling around and she's got this kind of life philosophy that she is going to she's going to live this life of sort of complete freedom, in the sense of she doesn't want to be trapped, she doesn't want any obligations, she doesn't want any she doesn't want to owe anyone anything. And then she meets and falls in love with this woman who very much changes that. And it is a book about whether or not we can love someone against our best interests, or whether or not we should love someone against our best interests. And it's, it was so, the prose. I did love it. Do you know what I haven't been paying attention to? How many books are actually in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh shit! Oh shit! Bugger. Oh no. I don't know why. I just in my head was like, well, at the end of that row that must be 10. That's how counting works, right? It's famously very qualitative. Okay, right. Oh shit me. I don't know. Now that I've been confronted with I said what I said. They're staying put. Now, the Mercies, I realised, shouldn't technically be here because I was going to do this best books that I read in the first half of the year, i.e. up to the end of June. I technically read this in like the first few days of July, but I really liked it. I really liked it. It is about a group of women in the far Arctic, in Finland, in the an old century, 15th, 16th, oldie times, guys, oldie times, and all of the men, or most of the men on this incredibly isolated part of the world, died in this like freak storm accident because they were all out in the boats and it like killed all the men. So there's this like community pretty much of women who are existing, and it is about the local, well, they're not local, they sort of colonial powers, or the centralised government powers discovering that they're there and sort of wanting to disrupt this sort of natural kind of female community that's there. It's also got some witch hunting in. It's sapphic. It's really depressing. And I thought it was really great. I listened to the audiobook of it, and a bit like Mr. Loverman, it's like, it's not, it's in lots of ways, it's a much more straightforward and more like a classic sort of story. But I really did get swept up in it. Oh, it's not better than that though, is it? Do you know what? I'm changing my mind about Michel Faber. You're going down there. And you're going there. Oh dear. Last book. Tom Lake by Anne Patchett. This is a surprise book. I didn't expect to sort of love this book particularly. I read it because I got it on Audible when it first came out because, and only because, Meryl Streep did the audiobook. And I was like, fuck, you don't get Meryl reading a lot of audiobooks. This must be ace. And I really enjoyed it. It's this slow unfolding tale of a woman who she's an older woman now. It's set during the COVID lockdowns. She's working on her family's cherry farm. They're getting ready for the harvest during lockdown. And she's been joined by her 3 adult daughters who have all kind of come home to sort of wait out the pandemic. And they are, now that they've got all this time on their hands, sort of badgering her to tell her life story, because all they really know about their mum's sort of life before meeting her husband, their father, is that she briefly was a sort of rising star as an actor and had a sort of affair, fling relationship with a male actor who then went on to become really famous. Like, we're talking like Brad Pitt, like like incredibly famous. And they're like fascinated by the fact that their mum, who they just think of as being this like cherry farming, normal, ordinary woman, had this like potentially had this whole other life before she had them. And you know what? I really loved this book. I really did, and it totally took me by surprise. It totally took me by surprise. And I couldn't really, I mean, I'm sure I did maybe felt it at the time, but I can't really think of, I just loved it. I thought it was a bit like Mr. Loverman. It was, all the characters were so carefully drawn. There was so much complex human experience in it. And I'm gonna put it, am I going to amaze myself and put it, I think I'm going to put it there. I really loved it, guys. I really loved it. So I think that means the Mercies has to come down there. Can she count? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we have it. Well, there we fucking have it. The best books I've read this year, in order: The Member of the Wedding by Carson McCullers, Grief is the Thing with Feathers by Max Porter, Boulder by Eva Baltazar, Tom Lake by Anne Patchett, Maps of Our Spectacular Bodies by Maddie Mortimore, A Single Man by Christopher Isherwood, Blackouts by Justin Torres, Mr. Loverman by Bernadine Evaristo, Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin, I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman, The Mercies by Kiran Millwood Hargrave, The Book of Strange New Things by Michel Faber, Poor Things by Alasdair Gray, Companion Piece by Ali Smith, The Birthday Party by Laurent Mauvingnier, The Employees by Olga Rowan, Pity by Andrew McMillan, and Private Rites by Julia Armfield. If you have, I would love to know, firstly, I would love to know what your top 10 books of the year are, or even your top 5, or even if you can't do that, your top 1, or even just some of your favourite books of this year. If you've been if you're a regular watcher of my channel, I'm really surprised. Are you surprised by the order that I've put any of these in? Because I think sometimes it's really interesting, because sometimes I feel like you guys remember better than me what I said about a book at the time that I read it. So this is very much, some of these are really like with hindsight. And so I think I might have given different impressions of like where these books might land at different points in the year. So let me know if you would have picked this top 10 based on what you know about my reading. If you've enjoyed this slightly shambolic exercise, let me know if you want me to do more of these. I don't actually know how I will have arranged this video, or even if it looks okay, so sorry if it is gnarly and difficult to see. And if you want me to do any other tier ranking, fuck it, let's give it a go. I don't really want to do negative tier ranking, if I'm honest. Just going to say that. But positive ones, absolutely. And if you've enjoyed the general shambolic nature of me sort of battling books against each other, then you probably would enjoy the 2 Euros videos linked in the description box down below, because I do that for 24 books that I read from 24 different European countries. And if you are still here and you enjoyed this video, please do give it a little thumbs up. That would be really kind. And subscribe to my channel if you haven't and you're interested in future nonsense. And take care. Have a lovely day.